Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. Today we are going over our Bundesliga table predictions. So Pedro, I think we start with the relegation teams, right?
Yeah, you're right. Oh, what's up, Eli? What's up, everybody? And yeah, my relegation zone, I think it's gonna be
I
fairly.
have two obvious candidates.
Yeah, no, me too. I think it's quite obvious. I mean, I was looking from my prediction last year. I wrote a post on Twitter for a Bundesliga page I was writing for here in Brazil, and I was looking through the results, comparing the final week of the Bundesliga and what I predicted week one, and I only got one thing right, which was Darmstadt staying in 18. The rest was completely wrong, like everything. Of course, there's so many surprises here. I can't even count. I mean, Leverkusen winning almost an unbeaten Bundesliga season. We got Stuttgart staying in second, which I don't think anyone would predict. I predicted Stuttgart a year to stay in 15, right above the playoff zone. So in that sense, I'm not gonna change too much. I think at that moment in time, I thought my list made sense, but so many things happened. So I think based on what I studied and what I think it's gonna be, I think the obvious candidate for the 18th place this year is gonna be Hostel Kill. They didn't get
Can you
many.
tell me the incomings, Pedro? I need to know who they brought in because I know they
Oh
lost
yeah,
a
yeah,
midfielder to
sure.
Gladbach. They lost Tom Rotha to loan.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
sorry.
it's over for them, but
Sorry, I
it's
forgot
over
about
for
that.
them.
Yeah, no, they got some signed. They got some incomings. Armin Gigovic. They got Magnus Knudsen. They got Max Gesh. Yeah, I'm gonna get all these names wrong, but Geshwell, uh, Phil Harris, which are names I'm not really familiar with, and from the important names that left, they lost, of course, Tom Raffel from Borussia Dortmund. He is now in Union Berlin. And from what I studied and what I saw in some reports, not many important incomings, like really important guys coming in. It's basically the same team that come got in second place in the Bundesliga two last season. So in taking that into the context, I don't think they're gonna survive that long in the Bundesliga to up to that level. I don't think they're gonna reach that level as the other relegation teams from the previous year did. So I think it's gonna be Hostel Kyo in the 18th place. And should I give my 70th place, or you wanna
Yeah. Let's see.
talk
Let's
a
see
little
if
bit?
we're still in alignment on 17th. I actually think that the most Bundesliga thing would be for Holstein Kiel to finish like 13th. But I just don't have the faith. So they're gonna be 17th or 18th for me. I'm happy to like 17th and 18th to me are the same. I'm hovering here with the mouse. You see, it's VFL Bochum.
Makes
Are we in
sense. That was
agreement?
mine too. That was mine too.
I don't know how much we need to talk about them. Lucky to not go down in the playoff. Honestly, to Dusseldorf,
Yeah, no,
very
that game was
lucky.
crazy.
Some might say.
Yeah, no, and they, I mean, there's some interesting incomings here, but they lost some important names, and I think the most important one I see here is Stoga, of course, is now in Mönchengladbach. Takuma Asano also left the club as well. Got maybe Bernardo linked for on a exit this summer as well. We gotta wait until the end of the transfer window, and not many important players coming in. Like not many from what I see here
Can
on
I just
transfer.
say Bochum 18? Can we flip that right now? Like the amount of outgoings, right? Like,
I don't know. I still think Bochum is gonna stay in 17, but I mean, I don't think that would make that much of a difference in that context, as long as we agree on those two. But
yeah, that's fair. And who do we have in 16th? Because I'm going to give you a hot take.
no, that was one of the most difficult ones because I love São Paulo. I don't wanna put them
I
directly.
don't have St. Pauli. I'll
You
tell
don't
you
have
that
São Paulo.
right
Yeah,
now.
no. I was debating with myself about that because I was thinking, what are the other options? Because I don't think Union Berlin is going to be that as bad as they were last season. They got Bo Svensson back in the Bundesliga after he left Mainz, I think 1 year back. So I think they're going to do decently enough. They're not going
I'm
to
gonna
have
give
that much more
you.
aggression.
Let me give you four. I'm gonna give you four. Augsburg lost Demirovic, which I think is a big loss for them, but they
Okay,
do have a lot of money coming in.
that's
Freiburg
good.
lost a coach of like 30 years, but they've had European football in recent seasons. They had a bit of a Europa League run last year, helping the Bundesliga secure the fifth spot for Champions League. So I think they just have too good a squad. I think that the Japanese attacker they have that I've really liked for many years. I think he's due for a breakout. Can't remember his name right now. Very sorry to all my fans that believe in my ball knowledge. I clearly don't have it. Um, then I have Werder Bremen. This
From
team kind of they
Minnesota.
lost their young striker on a free. Um, Dutch is good, but
They
like
got a top player in the transfer window this summer. Come on. They got
who did
top.
they add?
They got, let me see here in transfer market because this thing is not in order, so that doesn't help me out that much. But you can keep going. I'm gonna look for Werder Bremen here while you're
And
talking.
then the team I have. This is the hot take. This is where the hot take comes in. Obviously, we talked a little bit about St. Pauli, but I feel like people are being a little too reactionary about that. Like this team was statistically the only team that was kind of like set apart from the others in the second Bundesliga last year. Obviously, they lost their coach. They lost a top academy talent for them, but I don't think that affects their here and now. They did lose, I believe, like one key player to MLS or something like that, but I think they'll be mostly fine. My shout, it's FC Heidenheim. They lost
Yeah,
Aaron
I
Dinchy.
agree. That's my on my list
They
too.
lost. You agree?
I agree. I think they're on the
They
list.
still have their coach, but they lost their striker Tim Kleindienst, who's going to Borussia Mönchengladbach. They lost Jan Nicholas Besta, Dortmund boy. Um, they lost Aaron Dinchy. That's their whole attack. They're
Yeah,
gonna have a
that's their full
brand
attack.
new attack. And they are going to the relegation playoff. I think honestly, like the Bundesliga team staying up in the relegation playoff, like this might be the year. I mean, I would hope this
Yeah.
is the year. The second Bundesliga needs that. A lot of very big clubs down there. Heidenheim not one, but also like Heidenheim. I think they still have some Bundesliga quality players in there. I just think with European football, like that's gonna add. There's no way they have the depth for that, right? And they
Yeah,
lost their whole attack again. Like
exactly. No,
you
I was
cannot
gonna
get
say
away from
that.
that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was I was thinking on Heidenheim. I was thinking of Werder Bremen. I was obviously thinking on São Paulo. As much as I love São Paulo and I wish they stay, and which in our prediction is gonna work out just fine. But I think Heidenheim is gonna stay in that position basically because the reasons you just listed. Because they lost their whole attack. They have a few additions here. I'm gonna read real quick. Michael Kaufman, from Union Berlin for 1.5 million euros. They got Silord Conte, right winger, German Ghanaian right winger from Paderborn for 70k, 700k, sorry, and Leo Cienza, the Brazilian Dutch boy from Ulm from 600k. Not many great additions. Probably gonna do just fine with the manager and the way they play, but with the calendar and the Bundesliga getting more competitive, and they're gonna play the Conference League as well this season. They immensely overachieved last season, so in that sense, because their calendar is gonna be a little bit of a stretched one, and because they lost a few really important pieces, especially for Bundesliga teams, which are gonna talk later. I think unfortunately Heidenheim is gonna stay in relegation, gonna go to the playoffs. But I think they have a good shot if they, I mean, whoever they face.
I'm actually gonna take back some of the positive things I said about them. I think they were actually like fourth bottom by expected goals difference, which is a key statistic in terms of predictive outcomes of where you finish in the table. And they were horrendous by that metric last year. So I think that they would do very well to finish above 16th because they were fourth worst last season. And you had some truly dreadful sides in Cologne, and I think it was like Darmstadt last year.
Yeah,
So yeah,
Darmstadt.
Heidenheim. I'm feeling less hot about my take now, especially with their whole attack gone. Um, but I think at their budget, like they'll be fine to come right back up if they go down. But I could very easily see some like Bundesliga stuff happening, and Holstein Kiel finishing above them, even though I don't really rate their squad. But let's go into 15th, the battle for staying in the Bundesliga. Your bottom half clubs, and I think there's two shouts. I think that are left from like we had four, but I think there's still two that I think are a bit below your Augsburg squad, and I think it's gonna be between Werder Bremen and St. Pauli.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there is a team. I'm not sure. Maybe it's too early for them, but I think we should keep an eye on Freiburg. And I'm not saying that in terms of squad. They have a decent squad. They haven't lost many key players, but at the same time, they have a new manager. Christian Streich just left the club after so many years there. So we gotta stay attentive to that situation, especially because they got such a young coach in the job right now. So we'll see how that's gonna play out, but we'll keep an eye on Freiburg. But I think those are the options I would stay attentive to, and I think I'll just go with São Paulo in 15, just barely escaping the playoff zone. I think that makes more sense.
Okay, I'm very happy with St. Pauli. I might have to disagree pretty strongly on Freiburg. I just feel like the squad it has a bit too much quality for me because you have Noah Atabulu who's had a bad season last year, but he's so talented, so young. You have Matthias Ginter at center back. I think he's really good. Philip Line are really good center backs, and I feel like that like just makes your job so much easier.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that
Dylan
makes
Sedilia is like I don't necessarily rate him as highly as most people like but I just think he's a bit too good like and at the right age to just get better. So I think we're not going to talk about them for a decent amount of time. One of the players I really wanted to succeed at Dortmund, Maxi Philippe, and they also added Aaron Dinchy. So they have some options in attack. So I got to push back on that one.
yeah,
I
no,
think
it's
next
just a
up
shot. It's just a
it's
shot.
Werder Bremen.
Yeah, it's just a shot. I'm just gonna go from a few. On Freiburg right here. They got a few incomings. They got Eric Dekti, as you said, Patrick Os Osterhage, Maximilian Philip is back as well, Yannick Hutt, and a few other guys. Ogbuz as well. I think I saw him featured on the preseason, so he might play a little bit. And some other guys here don't have much knowledge on, or
And
just in
you
or
still have Ritsu Doan. Like you can't forget. Like they
yeah, I
have
love the one. Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying that because I
some
remember I
options.
last season I predicted Borussia Mönchengladbach to which a squad I really liked, and they had a new manager in who was in Leverkusen before, Xabi Alonso. I think Seoane, I think that's his name. And I was really excited with that potential. I remember in my prediction I put them in seven or something like that. Yeah, I put them in seven, and then in the end of the Bundesliga, they finish all in 14. So there's a major downgrade in what I was expecting for them. So in that sense, with the new manager coming in, even though the quality they have on the squad, I am scared that it's going to be something similar to the Mönchengladbach phenomenon from last season, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying they're going to stay there. I still think, I think you just put it at Werder Bremen, which I think makes much sense. So I think I'm gonna stick with Werder Bremen there with St. Pauli as well. I agree with you, but I would keep an eye open on Freiburg. I'm not sure how things could play out, and then maybe even surprise us negatively.
So are we gonna go Augsburg then for 13th?
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah. That was my other option. I don't think Union Berlin is gonna do as bad, so I think they might stay in that mid-table zone with the other mid-table clubs like yeah, Mainz and
They added Tom Rotha, which I like. Their fullbacks still are pretty solid ahead of him. You got Gosens in there, I believe. Um, I just think it's like a pretty solid squad. They've kept Doeki, I believe. Kevin Volan's in there.
yes,
They lost Brendan Aronson, but obviously a bit part player last year.
yeah.
So
Apparently, Gosens is not leaving as well, so I think Union Berlin is not gonna do underperform as much as they did last season, and they get Bo Svensson back in the Bundesliga. I think he's a decent coach. I think he's gonna keep the club in that mid-table zone. Werder Bremen, I think I remember giving you some info on the top player. I was referring to Kiki Top, the youngster they got from Schalke for 2 million. It's just for me, it's just the coolest name in the league for now. If you have any better options, just give me. But he's one of the better names. Has done a pretty good preseason for what it's like. So let's keep an eye on Werder Bremen for because of Kiki Top, but because of the lack of depth of their squad, I think he's gonna stay there. But I just want to give that quick shout to Kiki Top. I think we're gonna speak a little bit about him during the season.
next up, I have mines personally. They've lost Barrero, the Luxembourg magician, the man in midfield.
Oh
Um,
yeah, play great
so
against
I
Dortmund.
just think that this is where they're gonna finish. They're finishing 11th. They had a down season last year. This is a bit of a return to form. but like I think they just underachieved by so much last season, missing a lot of attackers for so much of it. I
Yeah.
think that's fair to
No, makes
pencil in.
sense. And they lost Brian Gruda as well, of course, for Brighton. They lost Seb van der Berg, which allegedly is linked to a move to Leverkusen. I think he's supposed to choose between Leverkusen and another club, which I completely forgot right now. But also a big loss for them. So makes sense. Mostly, if I remember correctly, they stayed in that zone in 13. So it's kind of like on the same range as they finished last season. And with all the people they lost, they got some new players. They got Kai Sano, a Japanese guy from Kashima Antlers, 2.5 million. They got Nicholas, Jesus Christ, Virat Shrink. He's Austrian. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but he got in the club for 800K. Armindo Sieb from Bayern Munich on a low transfer. I mean, not many names that call my attention as much. So I think that's fair to say they're going to stay in a zone similar to last season.
Okay, and next up, who do you have, Pedro?
Next up, oof, no, that's the mix zone I was talking about. Man, it's so hard to predict the Bundesliga now. Right now, I think I have with the stretch season with playing European football. I think with the other clubs that are playing there and getting better, I'm between Offenheim and Wolfsburg right here. But I think I'm gonna go Wolfsburg first. I think I'm gonna go.
No, 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 no. Wolfsburg has to be better. They have Rolf Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, I thought about that as well, but I think they're gonna still be in the mix zone over there. They might be fighting for a spot in European football. No, I'm gonna stick with Hoffenheim. I think Hoffenheim is the next one for me in the middle.
Kramaric is another year older. They lost Bayer. There's a bit of turmoil at the top of the club in the backroom staff. I know, so I feel like they could have a very bad season, but their squad's still pretty talented. I
Yeah.
don't see them doing much worse than 12th.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And with the European football, I think they would need a more depth in their squad. They got Adam Hochleck from Leverkusen for 18 million euros. Alexander Praz, who made a great Euros for Austria. He came from Sturm Graz for 9.5 million. So in that sense, I think they got some interesting pieces over there. Kamara is still a baller. He can definitely score against Dortmund, as we surely know. So in that sense, and with the European football, Hoffenheim is gonna stay in that zone, middle zone.
Okay, so now we have. I think it's very much a 4 and 5 situation. So we have Freiburg, Wolfsburg, Gladbach, and Eintracht Frankfurt. If we want to do anything crazy, and drop them away from the top six, which I'm not gonna give you a spoiler, but I might have. Um, who do you think is next?
Yeah, no, it's pretty hard. I think if we consider like the left side of the tier list, we have Leverkusen, Munich, Dortmund, and Leipzig, which are the alleged top four, and we also have Stuttgart. So we have the top five mostly aligned there. I don't think there are gonna be any surprises. I think the teams that can surprise maybe Frankfurt. They only lost Pacho and they got some decent depth over there, really decent footballers in the first team. So in that sense, I still think they're gonna be in the top six, top seven fight, and I think Gladbach can do better. So I'm just
I love Gladbach's
I
summer
love
business.
yeah. I
So
just want them to
I
bounce
think I
back
can only
fast.
go Wolfsburg. I think I can only go Wolfsburg here.
I think my guess would be Freiburg because of my previous reason that I cited before, which makes a lot of sense. That's the mostly the zone that they stay in the league. Sometimes they compete, but I mean last season, if I don't stay correct, they finished in 10th, so it's not that further from where they finished last season. So I would go with Freiburg, but as I said with the relegation zone, I don't think really matters in the mid table. I think we can just agree. I think it could be Freiburg and Wolves there.
I don't know because like Wolfsburg to me, it's the transfer is in. It's a center forward Mohamed Amoura from Union Saint Gilloise on loan. Camille Grabara to play replace the outgoing Cohen Castells on a free. They lost Luca Waldschmidt. They lost Maxi Philippe. Not great guys. They lost some
Yeah,
winger
I was
depth
gonna say
with
that. Not
Cherny.
really. They lost
Um,
Serne, which was not a starter all the way around. So the same uh, base of their team, it's gonna be like the same players. There is not gonna change much.
Yeah, but you have, and this is the next point I was going to get to. You
Okay.
have a guy in Maxence Lacroix,
Lacroix.
who has been linked with a move away.
Sure.
I'm not to be convinced that he ends the summer at Wolfsburg, and to me, I would worry about the defense. Whereas, like, I kind of talked myself up on Freiburg's squad. Wolfsburg, if you look at some of the wingers they have, Jacob Kaminski is 22 now. Hasn't really shown a ton of anything besides potential. Same could be said of a now 23 Patrick Wimmer. And then you're looking at the young American um, out wide, Kevin Paredes. I'm not necessarily convinced that any of these three guys can carry an attack out there. So I have some worries.
No, it makes sense. I think we have both like good arguments for either. I think it's gonna be the two over there in that zone. I still think Freiburg might struggle a little bit at some point in the season, as I said, but yeah, I think it doesn't matter much. But I'm fine
Yeah,
with
I mean, those are my next two sides anyway. So
yeah, yeah. It's the same with the relegation zone. As long as they stay in the same, uh, like there's not much of a difference between our opinions. I think that's fine. But I still
if
think
you let me put Frankfurt seventh, I will give you Wolfsburg eighth.
Frankfurt 7. No, I was gonna put Frankfurt 7 as well, so I don't mind.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, by default, I've already offered, so I will stick with Wolfsburg. And I am a big Hasenhüttl fan. People will remember from the
Yeah,
Terzic out
I thought we
days.
were
I
gonna
was
be way
calling
more
for.
excited with Wolfsburg.
I was talking a lot about Ralph Hasenhüttl, and he can hide the flaws in a side. And so now we're talking about Borussia Mönchengladbach. I think in sixth. I think this is a fairly straightaway one.
Yeah,
Nico Elvedi at center back. Fabio Chiar, too many vowels. Italian youth center back, 19-year-old Italian German guy, and he started in their DFB Pokal match. You still have Ko Itakura there, so they have some depth there. Luca Netz at left back, still just 21. I think he's going to take a step forward. Joe Scally, 21, seasoned Bundesliga professional right back. Goalie, it's still Omlin. He's 30. You know what you're getting there. Jan Olchowski's had some moments there. So I think they have a lot of young talent in defense. In their midfield, I think they keep Manu Kone. They still have Julian Weigel. You have Rocco Wrights. So they're gonna have some injuries there. But then you add a guy like Kevin Stoger in the midfield. Like you
yes,
saw how good he was for
gotta
Bochum.
mention him. Yeah,
That's just sensational business. Still only like just turning 30. Like he has some time left for him. Philip Sander coming in from Holstein Kiel. That's a depth piece. So that just like shores them up a bit. Um, you have Borges Sanchez coming in, who's a highly rated like wide player. You still have Robin Hack, Frank Honorat, Nathan Ngunu, turning 24 now. You expect a little bit more from him. Thomas Fanchara, like that's a good player. You still have Playa there, and you add in Tim Kleindienst. This guy is good. He is a baller. He is a goal getter. He can play. He can do a lot of different things. I really love that signing for them. And then they also added Charles Ehrman, just because we are Borussia Dortmund fans. He's a Borussia Dortmund Academy product, so good for him. Hope nothing but success for him. But I really like that squad. You have the depth in midfield, which I think is very important this season. You have center back depth. If either Scally or um, Luca Netz gets injured, I think that's where their problems lie. But
so,
I think I like their squad. I think a lot of the Frankfurt signings are overrated. overhyped. Sue me. Too much time signing wonder kids that are just like a little bit overrated. Just because he went to PSV doesn't mean he's great. I don't know. He that guy's good, but
Yeah. No, I
uh,
agree with everything
Ekitike
you
is a
said.
stick figure.
No, no, I think that's I mean, for sure, I think they're gonna bounce back from last season. I mean, you have the strategy of taking players out of your direct opponents in Kleindienst and Stoga as well, which are one of the best talents in the lower teams in the Bundesliga last season. So you found some nice gems over there in teams that you didn't have to spend that much money to get them. So that's great business, as you said. And as I'm seeing also the transfer list here, they didn't lose many value here. They lost Maximilian Wolber, which is not that much of a loss in my opinion. Christopher Kramer, I mean, it was his time. I mean, I think his cycle at Gladbach was over. Anyways, Patrick Herrmann also retired. Janske as well, 34. So not many important losses over there in the squad. Also, if they manage not to lose Kone during until the end of the transfer window, that would be great for them. I think he's available apparently for 20 million. I saw the other day on Twitter or something. So that might be a problem. I think there's probably going to be a lot of clubs invested in trying to sign him as he did really good in the Olympics as well. But even though I think they have enough depth, as you said, in the midfield to keep it up
I
and
think we missed one of the most important distinctions we have between sixth and seventh, and it's Gerardo Seoane versus Dino Topmuller. And I just think that Seoane like got better as the season went on, and by the end he had a very mixed match squad that had experienced a lot of turnover, and he had them playing like very well. And now he has a much more cohesive squad. He has a lot more depth, and I just think he's a better manager.
no, it makes sense. Yeah, I think I think he has some stuff to prove, especially because of what happened last season. Because he also had most of the same squad he has now, so in that sense, he has some stuff to prove as well. Chavanchara didn't work, so I think Kleindienst is the guy to go now, and Chavanchara is going to be some interesting depth piece over there. But he still had Honorad, still got Plea to put there in the attack. They have some really nice options in the attack as well, as we all mentioned. So I think it makes sense. I think for me it's a no-brainer between those two. Like I don't think I can flip like those, especially in terms of squad. I think Gladbach has the upper hand, and I think they're gonna finish sixth.
And now we get to the most controversial
But
question in every Bundesliga prediction. Who do you have in fifth?
I have Leipzig in fifth.
Pedro, we gotta stop agreeing. It's making this a little too cohesive. Not enough debate. I also have Leipzig in fifth.
No, I think the main reason why I put them in fifth, I think Dani Olmo is a huge loss, and Nusa is a good player, but he's not this same kind of player. I think it's going to be interesting to see the 4-4-2 system they got with Nusa to a winger like Nusa, more incisive and more dribbler, and then also we have I forgot now the Simmons, of course, on the other side as well. Still with Sheshko and Openda to operate the attack. I think they didn't lose many important pieces over there. I still wish they got more depth in the midfield. I think they could have at least one better option there than Schlager and those other guys.
It's
Like
really about if Seavold goes. Like Seavold is a young player, very
yeah, I was
highly
gonna say
rated,
that.
came over last season and was not good. Not
Yeah,
good.
yeah. If
The
he steps
midfield
up, I think
options
they're
there
good.
are bad.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of them are bad to
Um,
mediocre. I think when Haidara is your best midfielder, and you are playing for Champions League football, I think there are worries because in possession they don't have a guy that takes care of the ball. Like
yeah, controls
Haidara doesn't do
tempo.
it. Um, oh my God, Javert Schlager doesn't do it. My least favorite player ever. He picks up a trillion yellow
I know you
cards.
hate it.
He is dirty. Enough said about him. I just don't love their midfield unless unless Seivold has a breakout campaign. Um, I don't like their midfield. Their chance creation um, sucks if their new signings, like if the Almo replacement does not hit the ground running, then Xavi Simons has to play every minute for them. because they have no other way to create chances. That's flat out what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. And I think there's also an important thing to mention. I think during the winter transfer window, there was almost Brentford almost signed Antonio Nusa, but there's apparently some hugely concerns on injury on his side, on his medical. He failed his medical, so he didn't go to the Premier League during that
and
winter.
also with Nusa, like the numbers in terms of goal output in Belgium, uh, are incredible, but the Bundesliga is a whole nother level. Like
True, yeah, it's a
I
big step
have
up.
seen some dreadful players dominate that league. Um, I don't know. Don't like I've watched Belgian league games. Thank God, get streamed often before the start of the Bundesliga games. So I'm a morning person. I'm up 6 a.m. watching my Belgian league football. It starts like 6:30, 7 a.m. I can assure you, the
Yeah.
bottom five teams in the Belgian league every year are horrendous. They are not good. I have seen so many players from Belgium who flopped in top five leagues cook their fullback every single time. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
Victor
not
Orban
saying
as
he
well,
won't do
from
it. I
Lyon.
think he will. But will he do it this year?
Yeah, that's the thing, and he's still young. He still has a lot to develop. I don't think he's an end product as well. I think even if he went to the Premier League, I think Brentford would be the perfect fit for him, especially because he would have some playing time and time to learn with Thomas Frank, who is a really underrated player in the league, in my opinion, at least. But now going straight into a side like Leipzig, we're competing for trophies, we're competing for European competitions like the Champions League. It's going to be a huge step up. Great player, but I don't think he's the guy necessarily for the short term, or I don't not sure he's gonna deliver what you require in the short term, especially after losing Olmo. So in that
And
sense, that's
yeah,
why
and
I
you
think
can you can
they're gonna
talk
stay for
about injuries with Almo, but when he was on the field, he was a top five attacking midfielder
absurd.
in the world. Like
Now
he,
for me,
he was crazy. Like
way
look at
more
what he did
important
in the
than Xavi.
Super Cup against Bayern. Like that's
No, yeah, way more important in the squad in the midfield than Xavi Simons was. Simons is a good player, but Olmo makes all the
and
difference.
also like Xavi Simons, like he overperformed his expected assists, his expected goals last season. How much of a better season can he have? I think he's gonna be a plus finisher. Like I think it's at the point where the sample size is big enough, but I just don't know if he can do it to the same extent he did last season. Still think he's a very good player. I think that maybe it comes down to earth a little bit. And then with Sheshko, he's a great player. He's gonna have a great season. But when you're playing in a front two, like there's only so many goals you can score, and like I'm not necessarily worried about either of their strikers' ability to get on the end of chances. I'm worried about that side creating chances because Henriks and Raum like fine, good, decent, creative fullbacks. But if you're looking at this league now, you're looking at Middlestat at Stuttgart. I don't think either of them are at his level creatively. You're looking at Jan Koto at Borussia Dortmund. Are either of them at his level? They've never had 8 assists. We got a Brazilian here, so he's biased. So
Yeah, that's why I
I'm
did
gonna
that.
be backed here. I don't think anyone's at Guerrero's level because that's a double-digit assist guy.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's at Kimmich's level if he's playing right back. I don't think anyone's at Davies' level defensively with either of those two because neither of them scare me in that way. They're both all around good, but they're not exceptional at anything. And their backline again, like Simicon, good, not great.
Physical guy, yeah, but not the most technical one. You got
Uh,
Buffalo over there as well, which is better, but
and then you're looking at like two like French children that are exceptionally talented, but you have to add for their age. And if they become exceptionally talented, period, then all of a sudden you're looking at wow, this team's backline is pretty good. But again, we haven't seen it yet, so you just have to be a little wary.
Yeah, and I think what Eli says is true. Like, I think what he wants to say that they don't have much depth in all the sectors of the field enough to suppress the same level that the starters have or should have. As you
Their
said,
their
I
striker
can see.
depth good, their center back
That's
depth
great. Yeah.
good.
No, it's
Everything
decent. Like
else,
center back, I think it's decent. Fullbacks, as we said, not as much depth in the midfield. So many question marks. And at the same time, I think we can start even talking about the top four because I think my team, who I think is going to finish fourth, they didn't lose as much as they did from the previous season, and they got some good signings as well to suppress some of the losses they had, including for a team that we both
I
like.
don't care. I think we both have Stuttgart. I don't care about the ins and outs. I care about Honus,
Honus.
and
I was gonna
I
say that
believe
the
in
exact
Honus.
Honus. Yeah, Honus is gonna be the main reason
I
why.
don't care about anything else.
If Honus
If
was
you
not there,
give,
I was gonna put them way lower than the top five. If Honus was not there, I'm gonna put them way
yeah,
lower.
oh, absolutely. But I think if you give Honus any 10 million pound center back in the world, he can get them to do bits. I think if you give him any attacker, they're gonna be fine. They signed two strikers. Um, I mean, they retained Undav. He scored like 30 goals last year almost. Per 90 numbers were crazy. The
They
guy
kept,
finds chances like
yeah,
nothing else.
kept a bunch of guys.
Um,
Yeah, they got
Demirovic, I
Chabot
hate.
as well.
Demirovic, I hate. But if you give Honus Demirovic, all of a sudden, I'm gonna start thinking he's talented because I'm gonna watch him play in a Honus system, and he's gonna be like. I think last year he had a crazy hot season. The XG did not back up what he was doing at all. The XG was still fairly mediocre, and he just finished everything. But now under Honus, I just think he'll be fine. Like Honus will figure it out. It's fine.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to say about Stuttgart. I mean, and they kept so many important pieces in the defense as well. They got some important names like Chabot for which was one of the few guys I liked from Cologne in the season they got relegated. They got Ro I can't speak French, but
I
yeah, the
don't know.
important guys. Lewin's still there, uh, but they're gonna be just fine with Honus. So yeah. So who is your top three now? I think that's the important part of the podcast.
FC Bayern Munich.
FC Bayern Munich. Ooh, okay. Oh wait, I think you put Stuttgart in as a champion, so you need to
Oh,
change that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you, thank you. I
yeah.
have FC Bayern Munich. I don't rate the business.
Explain yourself, please. I love this. I'm
João
just curious.
Palhinha played in a dysfunctional side as a C ball get ball player. FC Bayern Munich are not a team that will tolerate a C ball win ball player. Like this guy, his tackle and interception numbers are crazy. I don't care because under Bayern, this is a much better team. He's been terrible on the ball at Fulham. Um Maybe you could say the Bundesliga is easier to play with the ball. I don't care. I think he can't pass. So right there, that's an issue number one. And out of possession, he's going from a team where he has crazy tackle and interception numbers that does not play with the ball too much, that does not dominate their league. He's now going to be on a team that's going to have the ball, 60% of the time. So that's going to make his job a lot harder. It's going to expose his flaws. And like I said, he's a see ball, get ball player. Now, if you're pressing randomly, um, for a top side, like that's when you got caught out of position. And then like yeah, they signed Ito from Stuttgart. He's
Inter.
older and he's far worse than Matthias de Ligt. They have a coach from the Premier League who probably thinks Eric Dyer's their best center back. They'll keep playing
As
him.
a Spurs fan,
Um,
I totally disagree with Yeah, Eric Dyer, loved the guy for a while, but thank God he's in Munich. Or Harry Kane did us a favor. Please continue.
yeah, I agree. I don't get how he did not deserve to play that much for Bayern Munich. I don't know why they ran De Ligt out of the club to get a guy who's a year older and worse. Um, Not that Ito's a bad player, but Matthias de Ligt um, has just entered his prime and was nothing but exceptional. Um, but I don't know. Tuchel hated him, so I guess he's terrible now.
Yeah,
Then
no,
you
I like
have
it. Yeah, and I think
You have Kim,
It's more of
who was
depth because of Davis, because they're not sure if Davis was going to stay or not, and he can play
yeah
both roles. So he's not your starting guy anyway. You can still have Upamecano and Minjae, which are good players, but I,
yeah.
I,
Kim and
for me,
Jay, good player, but I was the only one who said the signing was overrated. I was right. They lost the
for the
league. He was
value,
not
yeah,
that
I agree.
great.
For the
Um,
value,
I have the receipts in WhatsApp, so I was the only one who said it was an overrated signing. Lucas Hernandez was better, is better. Um, I understand the injuries, but fair enough. I just think the same squad, the same issues they have in the attack, it's so stale. It's so stale. It's Harry Kane and maybe Jamal Musiala runs hot on XG again and scores 20 goals from 5.86 XG or whatever he did to keep Dortmund from winning the Bundesliga again. Why did I remind myself of that? That's my thoughts on this. That is their attack. Like maybe Sane plays like the best winger alive for 3 months. Okay, what do they do for the other 6 months of the season?
yeah. Hopefully he can. I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully he doesn't stay constant. But I see your points, like because my original guess was gonna be Dortmund, especially because we're just starting with a new manager, and I don't think we're gonna be missing some that pieces if we finish the transfer window without another center mid at least. And I still think we might need another left back who can also.
We're Borussia Dortmund fans, and we haven't seen
I
us
know, but I
play
love the. I'm
a
gonna
real
stay with Bayern
competitive
Munich.
game yet. I'm
Yeah,
optimistic.
no, I'm
I'm biased.
optimistic.
This is my bias pick.
But that's optimism. Like a new manager coming in, a lot of new signings, third place for the first season. That's quite alright for a guy who haven't had a full like consistent season in a club until this
Yeah,
point.
let's talk about Shaheen a little bit more because 3 seasons in Turkey, 2.5, whatever. Um, every season his squad finished at the level it was. So let's go fullbacks. Obviously, left back is a hole for Borussia Dortmund, but you have Julian Ryerson who can play there. You have Nico Schlotterbeck who can play there. If Ben Sebaini is nothing, and Ben Sebaini historically is a career average Bundesliga player. So if you're looking at Bayern Munich, they have left back. They have right back if Kimmich plays there. Um,
I mean, they got
but
Stenzel
if you're
well.
looking at center backs, I would take all three of Dortmund's center backs over anyone at Bayern Munich.
No, Schlotterbeck overall, any guy, Bayern Munich, I'm sure. Anthony just got in, but I already love him. And Sula, I would probably maybe take one or two guys. I think Upamecano, I like his physicality. But I mean,
Yeah, but he's Upamecano over the over his entire career has lost his hide single handedly, 2 to 3 games a season. Nicolas Sula has never done that.
true, yeah. And
So like, yes, his peak may not be with Upamecano for 70% of the games he plays, but then you have the other 30% where Upamecano is just doing something random and picking up a red card or like
yeah,
forgetting that he needs to
for
track back
I
when he's
love
a
him.
center back. So
And
I think Dortmund at center back have infinitely more depth than Bayern. I think they have the better goalie. I don't think that's like Manuel Neuer, with all due respect, maybe the best goalkeeper of this generation. Because I grew up as a huge Casillas fan as a goalie. Not my pick out of bias again, but he's one of the best goalies of this generation. Um, but in the year of our Lord, 2024, I'd rather have Gregor Kobel. If you look in their midfield, if Kimmich's there, they have Pavlovich. These are good players, but Paulinho is basically like a champagne Emre Can, and Borussia Dortmund has more
no,
depth
no,
in eight,
don't do
which
Palinha dirty
is
at all,
shocking to
bro.
say. Um,
It's doing Palinha dirty, man.
I mean,
Portuguese Emre Can, that's too much for me. I'm sorry.
no, I said champagne Emre Can.
Campaign. Okay, that doesn't
like
make it better,
like a
but
slightly better Emre Can because he's better defensively, but Emre Can uh historically has put in over a 10-year career at this point playing for top 4 sides in every top 5 league pretty much outside of Spain. He's played for Juventus. He's played for Liverpool. He's played for Dortmund, and there's a reason he's played for top sides that Emre Can last year started in a Champions League final. Like, yes, he has terrible moments, and I'm more critical of Emre Can than
I
99%
was
of the
gonna say,
population.
Emerson Franklin
But
here.
Emre Can is, it's disrespectful to put Paulinho that high above him, because he's played in an elite side for his national team for Portugal, and again, it's a different player. He does not look to the same level that people say when he's shining above the likes of his teammates at Fulham, because he doesn't really need to do too much on the ball and just needs to run around and win the ball from wherever, regardless of like the tactical approach of his team. So again, I think Dortmund's depth in the midfield is better. I think Pavlovic and Kimmich, if they're playing in the midfield, are better than any of Dortmund's midfielders on their day. But I think that with Gross, Sabitzer, and Shan compared to Pavlovic, like I think the third guy in Dortmund's midfield is better than the third guy
Wow.
in
Yeah,
the Dortmund
I
midfield.
have a few opinions about that. I think
I think the midfield. So I'm saying the midfield's not as far as it seems, and Pavlovic is still so young. And then I think Dortmund is better suited on the wings because I believe Jamie Bino Gittins or Duranville will go, and I believe Kareem Adeyemi will go. And then I think you know what you're going to get out of Sane and Nabry, and it's going to be up and down. Coman might leave the club on loan. Like, they are doing anything to try and mix up that attack because they just know it doesn't work. Granted, all those players are probably a little bit better, but I think the depth Dortmund has at striker and Julian Brandt at 10 is just on another level, and I think the center backs Dortmund have are just so much better.
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think if we go player by player, I think it's gonna be controversial either way because some people are gonna prefer this guy for
I
this
think it's
reason,
very
and
close. I think
some
it's
other
very
guys.
close.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's very close.
I
I
also
think
think
we're not
company
that
like
far. I think we still have less depth than then, and I was gonna say a little bit about Dortmund's tactics because I
do
was
they?
in that
Because
episode.
Kane's another year older, and
Okay,
he was more fit last year than he has been for a long time,
but he's had
and he's
the
another year
best
older.
striker in
He's
the
had a
world,
trillion ankle
one of
injuries.
our own.
He's come back early from every one. You're a Tottenham Hotspur fan a little bit, so
No,
you
I
know
heard
that they were shooting him up with injection after injection. So
no,
I
come
don't
on, he's
really
not
know what
gonna
we're
stay like
talking
that.
about with regards to Harry Kane. Like, he's gonna fall off a cliff at some point because he's been like coming
Um,
back 7 months early from a month long like ankle injury. Like, I know I'm exaggerating, but like
yeah,
he's come
but
back early
I'm
for
gonna
every
say,
Tottenham injury. Like, tell
yeah.
me if I'm wrong. Tell me if that doesn't scare you.
No, I don't. I think Hurricane is that different kind of player. He's the guy. For me, I'll probably bias. I'm definitely biased, of course, but I think he's one of the best strikers I have seen in my lifetime, especially because of his talent off ball as well and how he can. And
Is a
he can score.
31-year old
I think
Harry
there's no
Kane
guys in the midfield to
going to
support
stay on
him.
the pitch?
Okay, I think it's fair. As I was saying, I think it's pretty balanced. I still think Bayern Munich has a little bit more depth than us, especially because we're still left short in a few positions in this transfer window with the overhaul in the squad. I was gonna
Outside
say,
of left back and the wings, I think that we are better than Bayern Munich
I'm
in
not
terms
sure,
of
especially because of the
depth
Emre Can
at every
argument.
position.
I don't think.
I think they're I think a midfield pair of Pavlovic and Kimmich is probably better than anything we can put out. I think if Kimmich plays right back, he's better than anyone we have. But if Kimmich doesn't play right back, I think Jan Koto is better than anyone they have. I think that whoever they put at left back is better than anyone we have. I think their wingers like match us into at least in terms of consistency. But I think if Jamie Bino Gittins or Duranville goes, Dortmund could be better. And I just think that in the three most important positions on the pitch, I would rather have Gregor Kobel, Nico Schlotterbeck, Valdemar Anton, or Nicholas Sula than I would want um, any Bayern goalie, any Bayern center back. Like I don't care. I would take the Dortmund players in those positions, and they're the most
No,
important.
okay, that's fair. No, I was just gonna say because I think if we're gonna talk like compare all the players, we're gonna stay here the whole night. And for me here in
Yeah,
Brazil, it's like
we didn't even talk about Garassi and Bayern.
yeah,
Bayern.
I
So
know. But what I was gonna say regarding the tactical aspect in Dortmund, I think the left back position at this point, and we've always seen in the preseason, I think it's kind of irrelevant because we know he's not gonna play with a proper left back. I think he's gonna play with an inverted fullback in the midfield in the left, and we're gonna have Young Couto probably because he has more dribbling output, playing in the wing in a 3-2-5. So in that sense, the left back position it's not that important. So as long as the preseason went by, I kind of understood why they didn't sign a player right away. But I still think we need a guy that should cover at least like a guy like Gutierrez or Karioglu who can cover both of the positions if Sahin wants to play in a original back four with Ryerson on the right as well, or Yankoto for that same sake, and also a guy that can cover that same space in the midfield because I don't trust Emre Can as the double pivot with Pascal Gross. And if we lose Gross, I mean, what is the other depth we have at six? Man, any other, even Paulinho,
we
if I get
literally
any other
got
depth,
to a Champions League final, Pedro.
I
We
know.
were second in the league on goal difference.
But come on, man, do you really trust like the likes of Emre Can and
Absolutely not.
Martian?
Absolutely
No, you
not.
can't be saying that seriously. Come on, like I don't trust those guys if they got to start instead of Groves. And Groves is a little older. He's 32 or 33 now. If
33.
33. So
Yeah.
I mean, time can might come for him as well, and he might get injuries, which happens in football. Of course, I don't want
Yeah,
that
but
to
also
happen.
he was playing at Ingolstadt until he was 26, and then he was playing at Brighton. So you have to think about how much less football he was playing by not playing in Europe until he was 28.
True as well, but I mean, doesn't remember, especially because of the quality he has over the rest of the squad. I mean, the difference is abundant. I even think Emre Can, I think he's more favorable if he plays as one of the three center backs, aside Schlotterbeck and Anthony in the middle, because he doesn't have to participate as much in the double pivot and progressing the ball and just helping him. Because I felt like when I was watching, especially the last friendly against we played Aston Villa, and then we played someone else that I just forgot. But
I mean,
no, sorry,
honestly, like you could play,
not the friendly.
like,
Sorry, the Pokal game. He was
yeah.
so overloaded with the whole responsibility of dictating the rhythm of the midfield. And if we have another guy, especially like a hybrid left back and center midfield who can play that role, I think Dortmund would
You know who
benefit
played that
from
role
something like
last
that.
year for one game?
Who? Sorry.
Kiel Watyin. Kiel Watyin played
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
role
was
for one
thinking
game
of him
last
as
year.
well. As much as most people say he's an eight, I think he can play in a double pivot, which is not the main responsible six for the whole distribution, which I think that fits, and I think he might have the space there. That's his. I think we
I
have
think
more
he would
depth.
excel next to Emre
We have
Can.
more depth if we consider Kiel Watkin playing there, but I still think we need another guy. And I think that's pretty close. Like overall, if we compare every player, we might talk every like the whole night here. But I think that's fair just to say it's balanced, and we hope that Sahin just overachieves with this squad, just getting his first season as a manager in a big club. So in that sense, I think as you put that in the second place, I think Dortmund is going to finish second, which is fair because we're still developing that squad, and I love to be ahead of Bayern Munich because I hate them. So that makes total sense to me. And but I still think we need stuff to do. But I would keep my opinion: Leverkusen first, Dortmund, Bayern Munich, and
Are you sure? Because I like Leverkusen where I have it.
have our relegation zone. Yeah, that's totally gonna happen.
Okay, so how much do we need to say about Leverkusen? Oh, I signed all the best players from France and then like a good midfielder from Spain, and I kept Xabi
Oh,
Alonso
Alex
and
Garcia is
everyone in the
good, man.
squad.
Alex Garcia is good, man. I think he at some point he's gonna start more games than you imagine. Terrier,
Started the
uh,
Super Cup.
yeah, he played in the Super Cup. I was not sure. I
Yeah.
think the, but
I think Terrier came off the bench.
yeah, he can't. No, he started. He got
He started?
he got sent off, red card in
Oh,
the
you're right, you're right.
first half. But I'm not sure. I think the other Palacios. I think he was injured, so I think that's also why Alex Garcia has played. But I think he's gonna play
Palacios
more
is
games.
different. Palacios, most underrated player in the Bundesliga last season. That guy is good. Um, and if you're allowed to just choke players at the end of matches and do whatever you want, and then you get to rattle the other team with no repercussions, then it's going to really help you maintaining your goal scoring record after the 80th minute. I'm not salty at all. Josip Stanisic, who has since left Bayer Leverkusen, choked out Nicolas Sula last year, threw him to the ground, got away with it. Um, Frimpong, just because he's so small, is just allowed to run around and push people, and then they get wound up and they get in trouble, even though uh, Frimpong started it. They'll get a yellow. Frimpong, short person advantage, gets to get away with it because he's pushing people 3 times his size, and then has his big boys come in and protect him at the end. So I think that's a recipe for success. You take advantage of size bias, and then you wind the teams up and play the best football, and somehow score every shot you take after the 85th minute.
Yeah, and they still did that in the Super Cup. If you don't forget,
Yeah, down a man,
magic.
insane.
It's amazing that
Best team in
he's
the
the
league.
best
They
football
walked the
team in the
league
league.
again.
Yeah, they're probably gonna win it again. And I think for me, it's better than Bayern Munich winning it. But yeah, they didn't lose much depth. I mean, Adam Hosch like never proved why he was signed as a star player, like a young
Martin
star
Terrier
player.
is just better.
Yeah, he's better at 27, more developed, had time to develop in the French league. Didn't Asmoun also not a big loss. Stanisic, good depth piece, but I mean you can survive without
I
him.
think Stanisic is their biggest loss, and I think that's by
Yeah, compared to
far
the other options, for sure.
because I think like at center back, like if they can bring in Meyer, no, Sepp Vandenberg, excuse me.
Vandenberg, there,
I think that would do
Matip as
huge
well.
things for them because I think the versatility Stanisic had to play right back, right center back,
Yeah,
in their back three. I think that's huge.
yeah, yellow
I
system.
think they really are missing that high level of depth at center back. The only thing that could take down Leverkusen is last year they played everyone a trillion minutes. I think Verts played 5,000 minutes or something straight off an ACL. Um, that's dangerous. That is risking a player's career. It's not like he plays the most energetic role ever, and they don't play that high energy football because they have you trapped in 30 yards of the pitch for 90% of the game. Um, so I just think that the only way they don't win the league is if they have like 3 or 4 bad injuries, which like you could ring the alarm bells on. But they also missed Boniface for a lot of last year, and they added a ton of depth. So they'll probably be fine regardless. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. They're not gonna be as invincible as last season, but they definitely are my favorites to win the league at the moment, especially with the uncertainties in coaching or manager jobs in both Bayern Munich and Dortmund. I think both teams are gonna be top three. But I like Company, but I think he has a lot to prove in the league as well, as well as Sahin. So for me, that makes too much sense. And looking at the table right now, that makes perfect sense. Like I think I have more higher chances to get it right than I did last year because there. I mean, I only got one right. So, but last season was such a mess. So many clubs
This
there.
season, you did it with me.
Yeah. So now, yeah, of course. So now
Okay.
there's not
So
really a chance of me getting it right. But I think, but that's fair. Like that's a fair
yeah,
list, I think.
let's all remember to like this YouTube video. Follow us at Dortmund Dispatch on Twitter, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts for full episodes. More YouTube exclusives coming soon. And just remember, one team at the end can match my Bundesliga trophies.
Bundesliga, yeah. Hopefully, we're gonna see Emre Can lifting that trophy at the end of the year. Hopefully, we're wrong. We were guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. Follow us as well on BBB Buzz and social media as well. I think you probably already know us from the podcast, the audio podcast. And see you guys next time. Let's have fun and hopefully Dortmund is gonna give us more fun this year than we've had in Terzic.
Hey, thank you for watching and have a good one.